but just the process in which I do for especially for the two new students, is that when we're handling a watercolor, there's a block-in method that I use. You're always working large to small areas, always, 99.9% of the time. And you're working from background to foreground. So the background is a repeated process through the whole painting until the background is done and you start finishing things in the foreground. So it's kind of like a Polaroid camera photograph where you're bringing the whole thing up into focus all at once. You'll see me jumping around and so forth. And then you're working your colors from a lighter value to a darker value. You can always go darker, but going lighter sometimes is a little bit more difficult to do, especially depending on what paper you're on. And then finally, you're working your colors more intense at the beginning, and you can always tone them down or gray them down as you move through the painting. The only way you can get your colors more intense is by putting the same color on top of the same color. It will become more intense. But it's something that you'll get used to, hopefully through the 5 weeks. And every week there's, of course, a different photograph and different colors we're using. And every 5 weeks, I always use different reference material. So we're never repainting anything. We're always trying to explore different things. So I started off with this, and you saw my drawing, and I've shoved the house a little bit more to the middle. And we'll figure it out from there. So what you need to do is to watch, and then you'll repeat the same thing that I did. And then please ask all the questions you want. There's no such thing as a silly question.
So I have something to interject. Like Charlie, I thought I had a color that I am now missing, and it was the sap green, and I'm sure that's going to be crucial to this photograph.
What greens do you have, Diane?
I don't have any greens. I just have blues and yellows.
No greens whatsoever, huh?
No.
I'm going to have to send a note to your mom.
I know.
What you want to do then is add cobalt blue to this.
Okay.
And we'll use the yellow to make the green. Now,
okay.
Why I'm not using, you're going to be using the ultramarine too, but the cobalt blue should get you some reasonable facsimile. Now, the thing about the color is that you have to have the values correct, and you have to have the intensities correct, and you have to have the temperatures correct. If you are off on the color, it's not going to make that much difference. And the reason being, you've seen movie posters where all these wild colors are going on, but they got all the values correct and it reads fine.
Okay.
So if you're off on the color, it's not a huge deal, but it does help to have the right ones, of course.
Yes, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, don't worry about it. I've done some things even in workshops where I went whoops and had to redirect my own thoughts on that. So don't worry about it. Marilee's got something to say here for a minute.
After this session is over, in the next day or two, you will be getting another email that's called Start to Finish Packet. And it's this packet, plus you're going to get each step that Dale does in this paint along. So you'll see each step, in the document, and you'll see the final painting. If by chance, once he's done and over with the session and he looks at it and says, you know what, I need to do this, we will videotape that section
afterwards
that he's added a little more panache to it or whatever. Okay. Also, you'll be getting a link to the video, and that will be in a private YouTube space. And as long as it's there, it's your video to look at. And,
thank you.
And also, you might, once you get the sap green, you might repaint it again.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
That we use the video, and the still pictures I take are like a backup, a net that you can add to your painting, or I've had students redo the painting. And I think it's a benefit to all the students that we teach, that they get this, so that they're not left out going, what did he say? What was he doing?
Yeah.
You know, I had the same questions when I was a student. And I was 22 at the time.
I don't know about you, but sometimes, especially when you're at the doctor and he'll say, oh yeah, you've got this problem. And then you don't hear anything else for 10 minutes. And then because you zoned out. So it's the same thing when Dale's talking about painting. So like I said, you'll get the steps in a PDF, the final painting and the video. So it's a really full package.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, why don't we get started here? We all know what we're painting. This little white cottage on a country road going into the woods. I limited the color. I usually don't use a lot of color because I want you to learn how to cross mix the colors I'm giving you to come up with other things. Using a lot of color is not the answer 99% of the time. It's a matter of value. So I slid the house over, did this, did that. I'm working on indigo watercolor paper, which is a handmade paper from India. I'm not a big fan of Arches paper anymore. It has to be 100% cotton. Arches changed their formula in making the paper, and they have not put a lot of sizing on the paper. It's in the fibers of the cotton, but it doesn't allow you to float the pigment too long. So I'm going to be working wet on wet, wet on dry, different combinations of that throughout. Just to show you the brushes I'm using, I have a 1-inch flat that I've had for 50 years, and I have a rosemary brush that is a pointed oval, or a cat tongue they'll call it. I have a Chinese calligraphy brush. I have several of those. Great brushes. And I have a 3/4 inch round oval here, and a number 6 round. And my smallest one, which I use occasionally, is a liner brush or a rigger. I don't know the number on it anymore because it fell off. So we always start with the bigger brushes and go to smaller brushes. So it's always large areas to small areas. So I'm going to start off with this brush here. I am going to wet just the top portion of this with a spritz of water. And I mean, not a lot of water at all, because I don't want it flowing all over God's creation. I want to be able to control it to a certain extent. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sap green, and I'm going to take the yellow, since we're working from lighter to darker. And I don't overmix the color on the palette here. When you put down the color on the paper, you'll see various colors show up. So I don't want to overmix it. So I'm going to start off right up in here, and I'm going to go right down to the house.
And just to confirm, you're using raw sienna. You're using raw sienna when you say yellow?
No, using yellow medium.
Oh, shoot. Okay, because that's not what it says on the sheet. It says raw sienna.
Yeah, give us a moment.
Yes.
Dale.
So I have to change my palette then.
Just a minute.
too.
Hold on. That's our mistake, because I had the yellow medium on here.
It should, so we do want the yellow medium, is that correct?
And yeah, you want the yellow medium. That's
Okay,
what I had right here
yeah, give us a minute.
on this.
Actually, can you just review the colors you have? Because that's different than what we got,
Yeah,
what you're showing right now. So I put the wrong colors down.
Yeah, because it says ultramarine, burnt sienna, yellow medium, and sap green.
All right, I sent the wrong one.
All right, wait, go slower. Yellow medium, burnt sienna.
Yellow medium, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and sap green.
okay, yeah, ours is slightly different. I mean, what was sent out was different.
Well, I'm sorry about
But
that.
that's okay, we'll catch up with you. I mean,
And I will charge you for the paint I have to throw out now.
And I will send a note to your husband. Okay,
You're gonna have to bring the donuts.
I know. I'm going to spray this again because it dried up just a little bit.
Okay.
And so anyways, those are the colors I'm using. So I'm taking the ultramarine blue at this point, just a little bit, mix it in, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start painting with big sweeping movements. Don't paint with little sweeping movements. Allow it to kind of just focus in here. And as I go into the dark area here, I'm going to take more ultramarine blue because we can always go darker. And I'm just allowing everything to flow together on the paper. Don't try to over control it. And then I'm coming up with more ultramarine blue over here. Yeah, we made a boo-boo. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's my fault.
Stuff happens. I take a little bit of the yellow along with that green, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it right in over here. Now, what I've painted around the house to control the edges for a certain reason, which I will show you what I'm doing with that. And I'm going to add a little bit more blue over here while we're still wet, because it will flow right into there. Some more blue right in here and going down the hill. So I'm looking at the patterns of light and dark. I'm not looking at the actual subject matter, just the big patterns of light and dark. So I'm going to take the yellow medium here, and I'm going to go ahead and start adding more yellow in and just let it flow. And I added a lot more water to lighten the value. And it's going to feel awkward if you haven't painted a lot. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, the timing in watercolor is important. I'm painted around the house to start with. I started over here, but I did paint around the house. I'm letting that pigment sink in because the timing of watercolor is very important. And I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt sienna here, and I'm going to run it right down the road here. So we introduce that color. You don't want to introduce foreign color later on. Now, after I have that watercolor soak in up here, and your first wash is always very quick. Your second wash, you slow your process down. And when you go into the third phase, it is pretty much at a crawl. So now that I have, I'm going to take this color, and whatever color's on my brush here, I'm going to tone that house down so we don't have that stark white. It would stick out way too much. And I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to it, a little bit of that brown or that burnt sienna. And I'm just going to allow that to fall in so that that will soften the edges. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the water spray again, and I'm going to add a little bit of texture to this because now it's partially dry, and we'll see a texture come up on this. And then I'll take a picture of it once it's dry before we start again. So I started off with the yellow and the green up in here, a little bit more yellow. Then I started adding blue to it as we came down. I'm going to take off this moisture along the edge because I really don't want it seeping back in. Like that, because it will cause a problem later on, possibly. And we just let it sit. So I'm looking at how I added the blues in here with the green over here, and then very light up front, of course, with where we're getting full light with the grass. So I'm going to put this up on the water bucket here so we can see it a little bit more closer. Nope, that's too much. Just going to leave it down here though. But we're going to leave that dry. And it's very simple to handle those dark areas and light areas and let them fuse together. If they don't come out exactly the way you want them, those are where we do adjustments later on. Is there any questions at all? Besides about the color? I'm going to take a picture of this real quick here.
Who's here?
Okay. Usually don't have guests ringing our doorbell at this time of the day up here. Any questions at all? It's a very simple abstract pattern of color because I work a lot from abstract to realism.
Okay, Dale, I have mine so far.
All right.
You tell me.
All right. So far, so good. You did
Okay.
a light wash across the house, I'm assuming.
Oh, I did not. So what is it? That's a light blue?
I just pulled in with a little bit of green and yellow green.
Okay,
Very-
I can
It's
I
very,
can do that.
very, very light, but I did not want the weight of the board showing in this case.
Okay, got it.
And for the two new people, it does take one or two sessions to get used to the process that I run you through. I know it feels awkward. I felt very awkward when I was a student so many years ago, which I'm not going to tell you how long ago it was, but
Tell them how long Jan's been doing it with you this way.
oh, Janet's been here for quite a while. She started when she was 2.
Since 2020.
Since what, 2020, I think, yeah. and she's attended my workshops up here in the North Woods and been doing Zoom classes. And she allows her husband to tag along to the workshops.
Oh, he was kicking and screaming.
Actually, it's a nice setting up here at Dillman's because you're on a peninsula on a lake, and it's absolutely beautiful. Any questions at all? Charlie, do you have any questions? But you have to unmute yourself too.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious. I'm not sure if it's just like specular reflection from the paint itself, but are there like quite a bit of like white splotches in the upper left corner that are like,
Yes, there is. I was dry brushing up there somewhat with the brush on the side of the brush, which I do a number of different techniques with the brush, as you'll find out. Those will be covered most likely, but that doesn't bother me. Sometimes I leave them because they enhance what I'm trying to portray.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, I got caught up and I just ended up doing a full wash in that corner. So I've left none of the canvas exposed. It's basically just the house in the middle triangle. So it was just making sure that like it wasn't essential to have
No,
nixed those. Okay, gotcha.
but please don't afraid to ask any questions.
Yeah, sure.
I wish I would have asked more questions when I was a student, but there's usually somebody else thinking the same thing.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. Yeah.
Well, here's my first
Wow.
attempt.
Okay. Not that bad. You could have gone a little bit bolder with the color as I did up in here.
Yep.
Over there, but you can always get more bold as we move through it.
Okay.
So one of the things, there's two things you cannot teach in watercolor, and that is something you have to experience, and that's the pigment water ratio.
Yeah. Yeah.
That takes time. I don't clean out my brush a lot in the water here. I just watch how many times I dip in. I keep on going back and forth the colors. Don't be afraid to contaminate the colors here. It's not going to be that bothersome.
Okay.
And the other thing is that you cannot teach is how is it going to dry? Because these pigments will dry up to 50% lighter in some cases, and different name brand paints will dry lighter differently than other ones. So I'm using core watercolor paints for the most part, which is made by Golden Paints. It's this brand here.
Yep. Yeah.
And they invented acrylic paint back in the day.
Oh.
So it's something that their paint is a little bit different. It stays wet longer. They use a different vehicle, which makes the colors a little bit more intense than other name brands. But I couldn't get core because Cheap Joe's went out of business a while back, and I bought American Journey, which American Journey, if I can get this in focus here, is a Cheap Joe brand, but it's made by Talons, the Da Vinci part of Talons, which is an excellent paint. So it's something that is extremely good. I've used all of them over the years, and I ran into cores by accident. My wife won a set at the Watercolor Society of Indianapolis, and I used them and fell in love with them.
Huh.
So I can get most of my colors all in cores, but I buy them through Amazon now. And Jerry's Artorama out on the West Coast, I think it is, they also carry them.
You go to your website for the link to Amazon.
You could go to my website for the link to Amazon, and you should be able to see what is being done with that.
And we are part of an affiliate program.
Yeah, we're a part of affiliate program, so we get pennies on the dollar, which means we can go to McDonald's after a year and a half.
Good deal. Good deal.
Okay, that's good, Janet.
Yeah.
All right, Charlie, do you have something to show me?
Yeah, here I can oh,
Oh,
wrong
too
way.
shy.
Let me see if I can turn the camera around. I
Okay.
don't know if this is gonna oh, there we go. Sorry, the button's in the bottom right hand corner. Oh no, that just changed the orientation.
That's all right. I'll let
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, here. Worst case, we'll just hold it like that.
All
Is
right,
that-
that's good.
yeah, I can't tell if it's mirrored or not, but yeah.
Yep, that's what I needed to see. I want to see where you're all after the first wash. So, um, I'm going to continue here. I'm going to take the hair dryer, which I usually don't use in a studio. Usually, I just watch it dry and decide what I'm going to do next. So, give me 1 second here, just slight bit. You don't want to go back into it too soon because you'll end up with blooms all over the place, which once in a blue moon you can use them, but they're usually not that helpful to have. Okay, now, as I said before, you always go back to the background and come forward again. That's what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to handle portions of the painting and not the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush here that I have, and I'm going to grab a scrap piece of paper so that you can see on how I handle dry brushing. So hang on for a moment. I should have got that out before. Here's one.
So for the dry brush, do you dip it in the water and then dry it with a towel afterwards, or do you just go straight to a towel to dry it?
It really depends on how dark I want it to be. And you can't find something when you're looking for it. Okay, I'll use this. This is fine. And it depends on how much paint you're using and so forth. But if I take just what I have on the palette here without mixing new color, if I take that, wet the brush, and I'm going to take off or pull out all the paint that is, or the water on here. And I'm going to take just this here. Not a lot of water, and I can dry brush very lightly like this. Okay? And sometimes you want to do it that way, or I could take more paint and a little bit more water, and I can dry brush like this to where I can get it darker. So you're seeing a lot of white paper show. Now, if you, on this here, or anywhere where I dry brush, I don't try to cover everything I put down originally. That will help you get more depth within the subject matter. But if you have too much paint on your brush, I'll tap it off a few times on a paper towel, and then I'll go back and I'll add a little bit drier look to it to where it doesn't have as much pigment on it as I do here. But you'll see that back and forth. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start off in the background in this area here and go up. I do want to maintain some of this original wash up here as I move through it. So I'm going to take the green. You notice I didn't go into the water. I'm going to take a little bit more blue. And I'm going to add a little bit of the burnt sienna to it to slightly gray it. And I'm going to add just a little bit of water there. Now, I'll always have the paper towel in my hand at this point. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dry brush in to get that texture that I'm looking for. I'm going to add a little bit more blue to it over here. Not worried about the trees. I'll get those in later. Now I dipped it in the water to slightly lighten it as I move up into a lighter area. And I'm going to go right up to the house here, which is right about there. I try to keep my edges as soft as I can for as long as I can. because I don't want any hard edges until the very end of the painting for the most part. Even the edges along the house are softer. And I'm painting in the direction in which I'm seeing things move. Now, if I want something to be softer, I could take the water on the toothbrush or the water and spray. I can control it on the toothbrush more. And all I am doing is taking my index finger and I'm pointing and shooting the water. This will soften up things for me. And then I could take pigment and add this to the mix. And I can go ahead and I can softly tint in other colors. Now, I'm going to take the yellow medium and a little bit of the blue that I have over here. And again, I'm going to continue painting. And I'm going to leave a lot of the color that I put down originally show through. So I'm being much slower in my process at this point so that I don't overwork it. And you're seeing a transition starting to run through here. And you really want to just sort of tease things in. That branch that overhangs right here, I'm not overly concerned about that it is actually showing. What I'm concerned about is the pattern of light and dark at this point, and I'm being very careful around the house now at this point. And like I say, you are building the painting up in layers. And by glazing across the other colors up here, you're going to get a variety of things showing. And I take a little bit more yellow with the blue. And I'm dry brushing all this so that you see these things coming through the previous wash. And we would be able to control them a little bit more. I'm going to take a little bit of the darker color here, and while it's wet, and putting that in to start separating things. And then off to the side over here, I'm not going to overemphasize anything. It's going to be very casual. I don't want my eyes going off to the side, because the focal point is the house. Like so. And then I'm going to take the yellow paint on the toothbrush along with a little bit of this mixture right here. And when I'm spraying, I'm pulling back on the brush. Don't push it forward because you'll spray yourself. And I'm softening some of these hard edges up in here that I dry brushed. They'll still show through well enough. And what I'm going to do down here is I'm going to spray just a little bit down in here to soften that transition. And I'm looking at little things here and there on the painting that need to be adjusted at this time. So I'm adding a little bit of the ultramarine blue with the yellow up in here and up in here. So I'm looking at the different separations of color and value. And I'm darkening this down in here. And that will help push the house out. And then I'll get rid of these white spots up in here and tint them and get rid of them out there because they are bothersome to a great degree. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the paper towel, just a small piece, and I'm going to wet it And I'm going to squeeze out all the water. And I'm going to kind of roll it up like this. And I'm going to take that. We're just wet enough, and I'm going to roll this along. And this will give us a softer texture. And it's very simple to do this. And that way you've manipulated some of the color. It's already sunk into the paper, and it will stay to a great extent. But this will give us a little bit of that leafy effect with the pigments. I'm going to hold that up a little bit closer so you can see that. So that's what you get. And then I'll manipulate that later. But the next phase, I'm going to go into the foreground. So that's where we stop at this point. So I used a lot of blue and yellow over here with a little bit of burnt sienna. And then I started making the color a little bit more pure. But I'm always being conscious of where the lights and darks are up in here. And it doesn't have to be exactly the way it is in a photograph, but you want to get it somewhat close. And I'll take a picture of this so that we have that from where we stopped at this phase. So if there's any questions before you start or while you're working, please call me out. And the reason why I keep my drawings simple is that you end up losing a lot of the drawing if you're doing a lot of drawing. As soon as you start painting, you'll lose some of the drawing. So I do not do any of these intricate drawings for a lot of the things I do. Sometimes I do, but not often.
Can you quickly readdress the side versus the tip technique for the dry brush? Just you're picking the paint up in different quantities with each one, or just
when I'm painting with the side of the brush, if you want it dark, you're going to use less water, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But if I do this without tapping it off on a paper towel, I'll get a lot of darkness to it and a little bit more water. Okay, so you're getting something along these lines here. And while it's still wet, I can also go in and dry brush some other things in there so it will kind of dissipate. Okay, now if I want it less, I'll tap it off on a paper towel. It'll take some of the moisture out. And when I put it down, I'll put it down right next to this. You'll see that it gets a little bit more scratchy.
Mm-hmm.
And it just depends. You kind of have to play with it to understand it. But I'm always using the side of the brush for that. Now on the tip, you're getting less, and I'm always a great proponent of handling large mass areas, especially at the beginning. On the tip, you're restricting yourself to the area. So I'm always using the side of the brush for this. So,
Gotcha.
does that help?
Yeah, it does. I realized I don't have the China brush, so I'm just trying to do the best I can with a comparably sized brush.
Yeah, you can use a number 10 round if you have that, 9 round, 8 round.
Yeah, I've got an 8. That's what I've been using.
And that's usually will suffice. I started using these Chinese calligraphy brushes. There's a link to that also, I believe, in there
On the website.
on my website.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to pick one of those up.
Well, let me show you what you get.
They're 30.
There's four of them in a set.
Oh, okay.
And
$7 now for the box.
how much is it?
37.
It's $37 for 4 brushes. They're quite good. They're made by Rosemary. Here's the other one. So you have rabbit, squirrel, horsehair, and wolf hair.
Oh, wow.
And they're really wonderful brushes. And I've used them quite a lot. And what's nice about it is you can manipulate the brush really well, the hairs of the brushes, to get different effects on your watercolor. And I do paint with a lot of texture on a number of things, because I do a lot of Northwoods landscapes and so forth. But let's see what I got here to show. Well, this is a painting we did in the last class.
Oh, wow.
It was one of Judy's photographs that we took 2 sessions on. And she wanted to know how she should handle it. And I changed her palette of color. I changed a lot of things. And this is all dry brush along with some sandpaper that is in there. So there's a number of things that you can do with the dry brush. And this was another one that I did in a 2-day workshop. And unfortunately, I'm getting late on here, but a lot of this was dry brush in here, up in there. It just is a matter of how you want your subject portrayed. And I always believe in giving your painting character to a certain degree, but you can't do it equally everywhere because it will kill the painting, obviously.
Yeah, you need some area of focus or central contrast.
You need an area for the eye to rest and what have you. But taking your paper towel wet, squeezing all the water out and rolling it across the painting gives you an automatic texture everywhere, but it's a soft texture so that nothing will stick out too much.
Yeah.
You don't really want things sticking out at the beginning anyways.
Dale,
Yes.
on the paper towel thing, I rolled and got nothing. So is it my painting too dry for that to work?
This was not wet enough. It was dry.
Should I wet it in order to let things
What I
meld?
would do is I would take your toothbrush or your spray,
Okay.
spritz water on it. That way you're touching the paint, and then roll it across there and you'll see texture.
Okay. Yeah. If it's too dry, it's just not going to work.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see what I can do. Thanks.
And again, just to double check, for the paper towel, should you wring it out or should it have some wetness to it?
I wet it completely, and then I wrang it out, and then it just has a little bit of moisture in it, and then I just simply rolled it with my hand.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because I've been using what are they? The painters like microfiber to wipe off my brushes. So
I'm using cheap paper towel.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So
you can also, toilet paper works well too.
Okay.
But it's for rolling it. This is a little bit heavier to use. I'll use the toilet paper for other things occasionally.
Yeah, I guess my question is, because I've been using the the microfiber towels, is there a way to artificially do it? Like, should I just dip a rolled paper towel in the water?
Just take a small piece of paper towel and dip it in, get it soaking wet, squeeze it all out, roll it in your hand like so, and then roll it across there and see how well it does. Because I know the microfiber stuff is a little bit more absorbent.
Yeah, it's gonna pick up more if I try and put it on there. So okay, yeah, I'm doing that now. I'm rubbing it through my hand.
Just remember everything we're doing, especially if you're beginning with me, is kind of an experiment because you go from one instructor to another, you're learning new and different things all the time.
Yeah,
And-
yeah. Like with textures and stuff, I'd been taught like salt, rice, like
Yeah.
milk or what is it, like cheesecloth,
Yeah.
like all those sorts of things. So yeah, this is the first time using paper towel. I also did a with Ingrid. It was a cellulose paper, so it was like a wipeout technique where basically you completely lift some of the watercolor paint off the paper. So
Right.
so yeah.
And
Okay.
I use a number of different techniques. I try to keep it simple at the beginning. The one thing that I used to use years and years and years ago is I used to use salt for texture.
Hmm.
I don't personally care for it. It's my opinion because
Yeah.
I like the residue left on the paper, even though that it's perfectly balanced pH with the paper and the paint. I just don't care for that crusty that's left over that sometimes you can't get off.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Just a personal thing.
No, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think mine, it's kind of giving it like an interesting sort of like laminar texture just because
Yeah.
I'm not able to like evenly do it. So I hope that's okay.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. It looks like mine isn't nearly as wet now that I've done it as yours appears to be. So I'm not sure if that just means I took too much off or if my page wasn't as wet. I can turn on my camera and you can let me know.
It might have been you weren't as wet as you could have been, but what you have there is fine.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Gotcha.
Very good.
Okay, and Dale, here's where I am now.
All right. Okay, you're good. We're going to
Okay.
build that background up a little bit more as I'm building mine up. Mine's a little bit darker at this point, I
Yeah.
think, because the biggest problem and the only problem with Zoom is that all the monitors are different. And so you're showing it on your monitor or whatever, and it will come up different on mine. So whether
Yeah.
it's dark enough or not, you're kind of splitting hairs at some points.
Yeah, well, I got these window shades up too, and I
Yeah.
remember that just blanks out everything.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna close the window shades.
Oh, that's good. That's good, Janet.
Nice, nice,
You
nice.
did I tell you missed a good workshop, Janet, up here?
Oh,
And the weather was perfect all week long. It was in the high 60s and low 70s with a slight breeze, no bugs. The color of the leaves shimmered against the sky. And
And there were angels coming down from the heavens.
how did you know? And they serve prime rib every day. No, just not that you would care.
she's a vegetarian.
She's a vegetarian. I keep on forgetting. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but the only vegetable that have eyes are potatoes.
Or pumpkins, depending on the time of year.
Yeah, really.
Well, here's what I've done
Okay.
with my non-green.
All right. Like I said, the color is not going to make any difference at this point. I want you to just understand how to handle the watercolor.
Sure.
And so far, so good. You might be a little bit busy up in here.
Yeah.
Which can be remedied by a very quick light wash that will hold it together.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
again, if you try this again, between sessions, you could take the quarter sheet here and cut that in half and do a half of this
Oh,
as a rerun when you get the right colors.
okay, great. Thank you.
Not a huge thing. I haven't stopped learning in all the years I've been painting. I'm a student and I'll always be a student. It's just on a different level, and I make mistakes on a different level. So don't worry about it.
Well, this is the first painting I've ever done in watercolor.
Okay. Well, not bad. You should have seen my first painting. I have a whole landfill in my name on the south side of Chicago someplace. Okay, we all ready to start again?
Mm-hmm.
I'll wait till Judith comes back. Oh, and Janet, I'm also in a gallery now in Boulder Junction. It's my 8th or 9th gallery I've been in over the years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, as of yesterday. Okay, here we go. So we're going to be handling the foreground and trying to meld it with the background. I'm going to pull up a few lights back in here that I feel are very crucial for our eye to go into the woods. So I'm going to take my 1-inch flat and I'm going to lift a little bit. And what I'm going to do is wet the brush, clean it out, dry it just a little bit. And I'm going to model a little bit of light back in here by lifting very slowly. Now, the indigo paper I use, as opposed to other papers, the lifting is very easy to do, but it's a softer paper in the texture and so forth. You cannot be harsh with it as you can be with some of the other papers, but it's something that I've been using for about 8 years or so. And I'm just pulling out a little bit of light that I feel is important. I can always tint it back in later, which I'm going to do. But it's always important to experiment with different papers. And I'm also using another paper called Cision, which I will be using at a workshop coming up in November up here. And I'm just modeling some of this stuff here so that I can manipulate things a little bit easier. And I'm going to take this up in here and I'm going to kind of soften it just a little bit so that I can actually create a little bit different edge with it later. But up against the house, I don't want it quite that sharp that quick, so I'm softening a little bit of it. Okay, enough of that. Now, in the foreground here, I'm going to start over here and go across. What I'm going to do with the road here is I'm going to take the burnt sienna and I'm going to put that in a little bit warmer than what is in the photograph. And I'm just going to take it out from the background here, and I'm just going to run it out. And then what I put next to it, it will soften it. There's a number of different ways I could have done it, but I'm going to approach it in this manner. Very casual. I don't want it to be looking like it's been planned over the years. It's just something that is there. So here we go with the yellow medium, and I mixed it right in with the brown. I'm going to take the green here like this and a little bit of the burnt sienna just to slightly gray it. The grass is going to come up quite a bit different than what's in the photograph, but that's fine. So I'm going to dry brush this in, and I didn't take off a lot of the pigment till just now. And I'm going to run it right into the middle of the road here. We take a little bit of the ultramarine blue, and I like to see the students every 4, 5, 6 brush strokes change your color, change your value, change your intensity, change your temperature, change one of those things, not all of them, but just so that it will have a variety from here to here, from here to there. Because if it's all the same, it kind of creates a little bit of boredom. And I'm painting in different directions. I don't paint all in one direction. I don't want it to look smooth. Because if you're painting smooth, it's going to look very flat. It's going to be uninteresting. I'm going to darken this corner here. I don't want the eye going down to that corner. Because we read a painting from left to right and from up to down or whatever. You can go from down to up too. But we don't want your eye traveling out of the painting over here. So you always make your outer edges uninteresting. Keep your focal point in the middle, which that's why I shoved the house off. Doesn't want to be directly in the middle. And I'm adding some texture out here. I'm going to travel across the road here, but first I'm going to get a little bit more definition in the middle of the road here. Then I'm going to go up the hill. And I'm going to take it right on up over the house just a little bit. And I'm going to run it right up into the woods there, so that everything still remains as soft as you could possibly have it at this stage. You don't want to over define it too quickly. Again, think of it like a Polaroid piece of film, that it comes up slowly but all at once. And I'm going to have a little bit more texture in the foreground as opposed to up in here. There'll be a little bit more up in here, but never in the dark areas. You want to keep your dark areas semi-interesting, but never interesting, because you don't see the value changes in the dark. There's less value definition in a dark area. And I've got a lot of paintbrush strokes in this case showing up. Then I'm going to take the toothbrush and I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt sienna to move that out of just in here, and I'm going to move it up into the grass area just to show a little bit more color harmony. And then I can take that, once I do it with the toothbrush, because that puts it down more randomly, and I can manipulate what I put down to a certain extent. And then I'm going to go to my smaller brush here, and I want to make sure that I paint this back porch.
What color is that?
That is the green, the ultramarine blue, a little bit of burnt sienna, and probably a little bit of the yellow that was already on the palette there mixing. But I want to paint this little area back here that is kind of a see-through porch, overhang, whatever. Like so. Still, I'm not going to address the house just yet. I'm waiting for some of this to dry just a little bit. And how I judge it is that the glistening of the water has kind of gone away. So I'm going to take some of this dark and I'm going to put it right in here. And I'm going to be very careful. There is a certain learning curve on using the toothbrush for texture and so forth. And I'm just barely tipping the top tip of the toothbrush with my index finger. Just a little bit, not too much. And then I'm going to add a little bit more burnt sienna that's mixed up right here. It has a little bit of green and so forth in it. And I'm going to put that right in here. And And I'm going to allow the road to bleed in, or the grass to bleed into the road just a little bit. But it's not a constant line of dark. It's a broken line, as I call it. And I can always manipulate that later. Now, up in the house here, when you look at the whole painting, this sticks out quite a bit, as it does in the photo. But I need to kind of tone that down a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt sienna with a lot of water. I mean, a lot of water, a little bit of the yellow, and just a touch of the green, because I want this to harmonize with the rest of the painting. So I'm going to put that across the house to tone it down, not entirely, but just as you see color kind of float across it. So that kind of pushes the house back a little bit, because lights come forward. And if that comes forward too quick, it's going to be disturbing for the rest of the painting. So I'm going to show you, you can see a little bit of color there. I don't know if it shows up as much as I would like it to. Let me tilt my lights away from it. Now you can see maybe just a little bit more on how much color I put on there, just to tie it into the woods, because it has to relate to the rest of the painting. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this road out, because it kind of turns a little bit right in this area here. I'm not going to make this distinctly coming out, because if I do too much back there, it's going to come forward. But that's where I would end up after the wash in the foreground. And I break this down more than what I usually do when I'm painting myself, because usually there's about 3 washes or 3 handlings of it, but I break it down more so that you could see the process coming forward. So you guys go ahead and do that. I used a lot of yellow with the green in here. I really didn't do anything to do anything with the house, with the windows or anything. I just tinted it so it falls back. Let me get a picture of this, because if I don't, I get reprimanded. And by putting more texture up here, battles against this dark mass up here, and this comes forward. Need to get rid of that white dot though. And I am going to go get clean water. I'll be right back. Now the white that I left, or the lights I left down here, are going to relate to the house itself and over here, so that I'm not going to lose those at this point. And I just put slight tints of the burnt sienna up there so that it helps balance off some of the temperatures that is really all pretty cool up in here. And I just let that road trail off into the woods just to be kind of lost. Nothing is over defined.
Dale,
Yes.
let's look at mine so far.
You could still be a little bit darker in here.
Okay,
So what you want to do is to dry brush it in, then take your toothbrush with water on it and spritz it so that it softly blends in to the rest of the area. And
okay,
you could also be darker back in here, Judy.
okay, very well. We're good. Thank you.
Minor thing. But you're always working with patterns of lights and darks and colors at the beginning and not trying to paint any object most of the time.
Okay, Dale,
Yes, let's see what you got.
see what we got.
All
Yeah.
right, that's better, much better.
I'm trying to get the light to stop.
I know glaring, but I
Let me turn off that overhead. The camera immediately
I know
tries
it
to
automatically glares on you.
it tries to white out everything.
Yeah. You need it for painting, but not for showing.
Yeah. I got the window shades done. Now I
Yeah.
got the overhead out. Maybe we can see what we
All
got.
right, that's better.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, anything I should do to
Not
this
at this
point?
not at this point.
Not yet. Okay.
You could probably show the hump in the road, as I call it, a little
Uh-huh.
more clear.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, will do.
Minor
Thank you.
thing. How you doing, Diane? All right, not bad. Not bad for your first time around. You're going to run into certain things, so I think you're doing quite well.
Oh, thank you. It's interesting. I can understand that you need to have a real understanding of the paint and the water.
Yeah, and
I
that
think
that
I
takes time.
Yeah, I think at first I was using too much paint.
Well, I'm one watercolorist that uses more paint than others.
Okay.
And then some watercolors go very light and airy.
Uh-huh.
It all depends on um, how we were trained
Okay.
at the beginning. And after being trained, you kind of experiment with different things and you go off on your own.
Sure.
I've gotten a lot heavier with my paint and different techniques involved over the years. But it all really depends on how we progress on our own journey, basically.
Sure.
And I'm always observing other artists, including oil painters, to see how they handle color, how they look at things differently, because we want things that are around us to influence us to a certain extent.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, but these are 4 of the 5 or 6 paintings. These were roughs that I did for the workshop beforehand, so that they could see what they were doing in advance. This is up in the middle of the woods someplace. Can't remember where. This was an old sawmill that's down the road from us.
Uh-huh.
And I altered it quite a bit. This is a wonderful old beaten up white pine that survived over the years. And then this is in the backwoods, not too far on our property here. And I did this one without a drawing.
Oh.
They really had to work with their lights and dark patterns.
Uh-huh.
So it's just a matter of how I want them to see things and explore different ways of doing things.
Sure.
Anybody else have something to show me?
I'm trying to quickly touch up the road real quick. I realize that there's
That's
still a
really
lot of.
nice, Janet, by the way. Go ahead, Charlie.
Oh yeah, I was going to say I still have a lot of lightness in the right-hand corner, so I'm trying to knock that down a little bit to kind of create that contrast between that and the road.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I keep especially the lower right-hand corner or the front of the painting a little bit darker in some cases is our eye automatically jumps over that to the highest contrast value area, which is up in here. If this is competing with that, you're dividing the viewer's attention.
Right, yeah.
And I always want to make sure the student understands you're the entertainer and you're trying to guide the people through the painting the way you want them to be guided. And the road helps a lot of moving the eye in and around a little bit.
Yeah, it's creating that almost like arrow, that pointing.
Yeah, exactly. And then diminish it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we ready to start again, or is there any other thing that
If you want to just quickly take a look at mine, like I said,
Sure. Yes,
I kind of
definitely.
just, yeah. Just a second. So I think I'm not sure if I still need to darken that bottom right hand corner a little
Yeah.
bit more, I think.
You also need to, the road has got to come closer together in the background for the linear perspective back here.
Yeah, so converge that a little bit more.
Yeah, you have it a little bit too far apart.
Okay.
Too many big machinery can go down that road.
Gotcha. Okay, so more of the convergence, like,
Yeah,
or to the right, like it's converging to the right, or more converging?
it's going actually to the left a little bit.
Okay,
It's
so
going this way.
yeah, so bring that
Just-
towards that direction.
Yeah, just a little bit more.
Okay, gotcha.
And I'll wait for Judith to come back. She's probably getting clean water. That's really a nice rendition, Janet, for not having painted for a month. Did you guys go to Florida?
We're in there now. We're
Oh,
here.
oh, I didn't even recognize the different. Oh, gotcha. We had frost up here last night.
Ugh.
Well, it's part of the change of the seasons.
We had 80-degree
Sometimes-
weather.
Sometimes we've had snow at this time of year.
Oh,
Yeah. They're expecting, from all the weather reports I've read, all the way down to the Farmer's Almanac, anywhere from 6 to 10 feet of snow this year. Yeah, it's good stuff. All that time I'm snowed in, I can paint. Not have to do anything else.
You can still teach too.
And I can still teach, so we're good.
and that's why you get so much more done than me.
Well, you're also running a business too, so
So are we.
we're running a business, but we're running a business of this. All right, let's get started again. And now we're getting down to smaller and smaller brush strokes on this. And we're going to be developing things a little bit more. So I'm going to be going to smaller brushes. But I'm still going to hang on to my rigger here. I'm going to start up in this area, come down and around and over to this. So I'm going to be teasing things in at this point. So I'm going to take the ultramarine blue, sap green, and a little bit of the burnt sienna for grain things down, or toning things down. I'm going to tap the brush off a little bit, and I want to come into this hollow first, and I want to portray some darker darks in here, not covering everything. I'm allowing the pigment from that I laid down the first and second washes still to show through. So I'm being very careful not to cover all of it. These lights that are poking through back here, I want them to remain, and I'll tone them down as I need to. But this is kind of allowing the eye to fall back just a little bit more. And this is the point of the painting where you can get lost for a while. So you have to kind of tease things in a little bit more rapidly. And I'm going to take the toothbrush with a little bit of the blue on it. You'll see me switching back and forth quite a bit. And I'm going to kind of tone this in a little bit here with that, just the ultramarine blue. If it has other color on the brush, that's fine too. We haven't put the tree trunks in yet because it doesn't warrant it at this time. Take a little bit of the green, a little bit of the yellow, and then some of the blue over here that I've already used. And I'm going to kind of tone this area down just a little bit. So it's going to lay down, fall back, and not come forward. And I also get to kind of describe the road in the background a little bit more, where it starts to take a turn. And that way I can bring some of this out down the road just a little bit. And I'm being very careful to make this narrower back there that I was just talking to Charlie about. But it's all smaller and smaller brush strokes at this point. And I am watching my edges still. I don't want to have too much sharpened up just yet. I'll do that along the way. But you're slowing your process down quite a bit. And up in here, I'm keeping the brush strokes bigger, simpler. I'm going to tone this all down on the side over here. I don't want that coming forward too much. And as I come up into this area here, I'm being a little bit more subtle with the value, so there's not a big change as I did down here. And those light spots will diminish over time. Come up over the house with a little bit darker rendition of the green. And if you noticed, every several or few, depending on what I'm painting, I'm changing the color or temperature or the intensity. If you have to talk to yourself, go ahead. I used to do that quite a bit. I still do occasionally. But I am putting in some of the descriptive leaf or branches over the house at this point. So sometimes you say, oh, I need to do this now. And I'm going to then put the right side of the house more in shadow by using a little bit more blue. And this side of the house is in shadow. So it will fall back to a great degree. Then I'll continue on up in here. Now, occasionally, as we move through different paintings and so forth, I will use a white gouache, which is on the list, to enhance the watercolor.
Did they give up the list from the palette and chisel? That's what I'm wondering.
What's that?
Did they get a list from the palette and chisel?
Did you guys get a supply list from the palette and chisel?
I only got the list from yesterday. Maybe it got filtered in my spam, but
Okay, we'll resend the whole list to you
Oh, they do.
of what I use. And then every week you'll get a different portion of that list that we're using as far as colors go.
So they may not. Did Diane get the list?
Diane, did you get a list from the palette?
Yes, I got a list from the palette and then I copied off what you sent in your email.
Okay. Once in a while that happens. I can't explain why. I have no idea.
no worries. Yeah.
One of those life mysteries.
Now, where do all the emails go is where I want.
Yeah, I'd like to know where all the emails went. All right, I'm going to lift up and redesign this slope or hump in the land just a little bit by lifting out with my brush here. Not completely. Now, what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to put in some of the tree trunks. Now, most likely at this point, you've lost some of the tree trunks. That's fairly normal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in. So sometimes I'll refer back to my drawing that I have on the sheet to find out where I have the trees, or sometimes I'll put them in a different place where they're more needed. So I'm going to put in the first tree trunk right here.
And the colors you're using are.
I'm sorry, I'm using the burnt sienna, the ultramarine blue, and there's a little bit of green in there. Tree trunks are not going to be popping out that fast because of the value around them, but I'm going to allow them to weave in and out of the trees, the foliage and so forth. Some of it's going to be dry brushed. Some of them are going to be a little bit darker than others. And I'm making sure that they stop and start at different places down here. So some look like they're more forward, some are back. And I'm also being conscious of different sizes and different spacing between the trees because I don't want them all the same. Looks like a farmer planted them out there, or Martha Stewart was in the woods. And some of them are dry brushed and some of them are a little bit more fluid. But this will start to make more sense of what's back in the background here. And I'm going to put a nice big tree in right here. I like to dry brush them up into the lighter foliage so that it looks like there's leaves crossing over them. Sometimes only showing portions of the trees. This will start to make more sense of all these green areas up here. And in back of the house, I'm just putting in a few here and there just to help support all this green that's up above here. And I'm being very casual with it. I'm not sitting here planning out, each movement. I do the trees very quickly in order not to make them look labored. But allow them to skip around. Don't show the entire tree trunk going up. And I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead, put the windows in. You don't want the windows too dark because they do have glass in them. They're going to be reflecting light back towards you. The only time they're real dark is when there's no glass in them. And I'm making every one a little bit different, just so that there's a variety in that, just a very little bit. There's a little bit of cast shadow underneath the eaves here. And it's colors that you're seeing around the picture here. And I think what I'm going to do also is I'm going to run a cast shadow through the back here from an outside source and up across the house to help give a little bit more interest to the house. And again, I'm not handling it real tight, the house itself, because it would look like too much of an architectural rendering and not fit the looseness of the painting. And I think that's where we're going to stop at this point before I handle the foreground. So what I did is I added more darks back in here very loosely. I'll go back and define a few later. And then I put the trees in. So it's different combinations of the ultramarine blue, the sap green, a little bit of burnt sienna, and just a touch of yellow. Excuse me. And putting in the trees, being very conscious of how thick they are, vary that thickness through the woods, watch the spacing between them so that they don't look like they're planted by a farmer. And then I added a little bit of definition to the house and a little bit of a cast shadow across here, which I'll finish that later. But keep it very simple. I'll bring that up so you can see that a little bit better.
So Dale, I'm realizing I don't understand the angle of the house where it's facing. I might have misunderstood it, which is not a big deal, but I want to understand what you were painting. So
this is the side that's facing us.
So is it
And
flat on facing us? Is it turned a little bit to the left? To the left.
We're standing here, always in the middle of the picture. I am seeing a little bit of that side that's facing the woods in here. That's this little blue patch here. It wasn't showing up that much in the drawing, but I added it.
So that's the side of the house. That's not a tree or
that's the side
like
of the house that's facing this way.
Oh, so it's turned a little bit to the left. Okay.
Yes. And I'll probably signify a door there ever so slightly later. That's where Grandma and Grandpa used to run out the door when the Indians came.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Native Americans.
Thank you. That's good.
Well, you never know what they ran into out there.
It could have been the gypsies.
I know. Could have been the gypsies too. But the sun is coming on this angle right here because that's in shadow there. And then we go down the hill, that's in shadow. So the sunlight's coming down on an angle like this, and it's on an angle like this. And I'll develop a few details on and around the house, and I'm going to be working and finishing the foreground in the next phase. but I tried to make the foreground a little bit more interesting color-wise than what's in the photograph. And I still have to put the fence in. So is it hot down there in Florida, Janet?
You won't answer me.
She's busy. If you have any questions, please yell. She heard that.
I know.
And while you're painting, you remember you got to smile and breathe. No passing out. Boy, we're quiet this morning.
You're busy.
I know, they're busy.
Focus.
I saw that, Janet. Oh, by the way, Janet, the workshops have been flipped next year. The rivers, rapids, and waterfalls is in the fall, not the spring. And the other one, the Four Seasons, Impressions of Northwoods, are in the spring. Just so you know. There's a man behind you, Janet.
Does it look like an action figure?
Is that an action figure back there? Yeah, okay. Tell him hello from me. Anybody have something to show me yet?
Yeah, here's mine, Dale.
Okay.
I was just turning off the light.
Oh, that's coming along nice.
Okay.
Good.
So just stop right there for time.
I would stop right there.
Okay.
You're good.
Thank you.
I don't have my trees in yet, but
Well,
here's where it's at.
oh, that's nice, Janet.
Yes.
That's coming along nice.
Yeah.
I give that a C+. That's the
So
highest.
much better than the D or the F. I usually, ooh, look at you go. That is so not your
Diane,
first water.
for your first watercolor, I wouldn't want to sit next to you as a new student. That's very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
I'm having fun.
Good. You should have fun while you're learning. That's half the journey. And how are you doing, Charlie?
I'm not sure. I can't tell. It feels like the yellows are too yellows in some areas and then not yellow enough in others. So I'm not sure if that's just a matter of mixing or if I did too dark underneath before going at it.
Well, let's see what you got.
Yeah, sure. Just a sec. Oop.
No,
So,
it's all good.
yeah, I don't know.
You could probably use a little bit more description in the foreground with
Sure.
some dry brushing.
Okay.
Because when I go back into this in a couple minutes, you're going to see all my finishing touches that I do
Okay.
for a demonstration, so that the focal point, which is naturally the house, will come out just a little bit more with detail and intensity of color.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You're doing all right. I mean, you're getting used to what I'm doing too. So
Yeah.
there's always going to be a shift in gears there.
Well done.
Yeah.
Plus, on Zoom, it's always a little bit different because I'm not walking around the class telling you to do this, this, or that.
Gotcha, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get started again. And we'll do the finishing touches on it because we have about 20 minutes left or so. This is the part of the painting where you take your time. I'm usually in the studio and I'll step back from what I'm doing. I also got to take a picture of this and evaluate what I need to do next, and how much, of course. Let me get a picture of this. Okay. So anyways, what I want to do at this point, just to explain before I start, is that there are areas back here, these little light dots and so forth, they need to be toned down. They're coming up way too fast and too much of it. I need to enhance the color and detail around here. And I also need to put some attention to the slope a little bit more for value changes and so forth. And then define a little bit more of the road out here. I like the way it just sort of goes back. I will lift a little bit back out there. Over here, there'll be some minor adjustments because I don't want to do too much over there to draw the eye. I've changed this quite a bit from the photograph anyways. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take just a wet brush and I'm going to define the road just a little bit more by lightly lifting and taking the paper towel and just pulling out a little bit more on just one side. I don't want them equal. Then I'm going to take the ultramarine blue just by itself, and I'm going to tone down these spots back here, which will cool them. And cool colors will recede, obviously, more so than warm colors do. But I need to get rid of some of these little white dots in here. So I'm being very careful in how much blue I'm adding. And I want to darken in this just a little bit more. I'm going to take a little bit of the blue, a touch of the green. And I want to darken in here to kind of define the ridge a little bit more back here. Define the, excuse me, the dark up against the house. It's all little minor things at this point. Never anything major. Because then that's where you get yourself into trouble, is by adjusting it too much. Excuse me. And I want to go in and define a little bit of that hump on the road here back in the woods, just a slight bit, and then curtail it off. And then on the other outer edge of it over here, I'm going to define a little bit. Not much. I really would just want that to kind of disappear back there. And I am going to add a little bit of color variation in the road right in this spot right here. Just a little bit. I'm going to define the edge of it just a slight bit. There's a little bit of a cast shadow on it coming down, and then dry brush it out to kind of diminish it. And a little bit on the other side, but not equal to the left-hand side. And I'm starting it in a little bit different area here, just so that this is never equal to that. So you always want that variety within your painting. Now, off on the, up above the house a little bit, I'm going to take a little bit of the blue and a little bit of the green here. and a little bit of that brown there, just pull it over a little bit. And I want to tap the brush off on a paper towel here and add a little bit of dark texture up in here against the house a little bit, but not equally all the way down on the edge. Just a little bit here and there, just to push and pull the value a little bit, because the lights will never look light enough if you don't get your darks dark enough. And I want to pull out just a little bit of a doorway right here. And I'm anticipating that's going to dry later, so it will diminish to a certain degree. And again, the more you work with it, the more you'll understand what to anticipate. Now I'm going to go to the larger brush just for a moment. I'm going to take the yellow with a little bit of that green I mixed up, and I want to put a little bit of a value change as it slopes down the hill here. Again, it's all minor stuff at this point, never anything major. I want to put a little bit of darkness out in here. It doesn't have to be anything particular, just to signify that this is darker here. I don't think I'll do anything with the shadows. I'm going to go to the smaller brush for a moment, and I'm going to take the pure yellow with a little bit of that green that I mixed up here that is kind of helps it gray down a little bit. And I want to add a little bit of yellow up in here, maybe a little bit brighter, just to pull the eye up to the house and emphasize a little bit more up in here. And I'm kind of moving it around in here just a little bit more, just to see this will punctuate that a little bit better. And then a little bit more on the house itself. I've kept the windows very loose, very simple. They're not straight by any means. I don't want them looking perfect. And I'm going to add a little bit of some darker accents up here in the roof or the overhang, a little bit up here, straighten that out. And then take that pigment I put up there and kind of pull it down a little bit so it's got a little bit of water in it, but it'll emphasize the peak a little bit. I'm going to have an open window here with no glass, which will show up a little bit more. I'm going to take the pure yellow and add it right in there a little bit. And then the pure yellow again. The opaque or the opacity of the cadmium yellow is much heavier, and it will block out a little bit of light. So I'm adding a little bit of the yellow right above the house where the light is going to be hitting those leaves on the trees. So all these final touches will enhance the focal point a little bit more. And again, you're in charge of the viewer's eye. You're the entertainer. And I'm going to wash that a little bit up into the bottom of the house, just so it adheres to the rest of the ground there. And then I'm going to add a little bit down in here, not too much. But all these final touches will become important to the focal point. You don't always have to have a focal point. You can have points of interest that lead the eye around the painting, but a focal point will make a much stronger painting. And I do it both ways. I have a tendency of sometimes not having a focal point. I'll have points of interest. Put up a little bit up in here. Maybe a little bit down in here that break up this area a little bit. But you're slowing your process down. Don't try to run through it quickly. I'm making sure that I have my brush moving slow so I don't overwork any area. Take a little bit of the straight blue again. But I use the burnt sienna for toning colors down quite a bit. That helps gray things down. It's a red-orange grade down. So anytime you use that, it's going to grade down most of the things around the color wheel. It's what you call a convenient color. In other words, you don't have to mix it up. It's there to use freely. I'm just looking a little bit here, a little bit there, not trying to go too fast. Add a little bit of emphasis to the road back there. And the fence that goes along here, the fence post, the question is, do I want to put it in or don't I want to put it in? It comes down to a decision of, is it going to help the painting or not? I'm going to put a few little trees coming out of here, saplings. That's our dog that we have here, our Welsh Pembroke Corgi that likes to voice her opinion. Sometimes a little bit too much. And I didn't darken all of this spot in like it is in the photograph for the fact that it would be too dense for a small area and look like a black hole. But I will go in and add a few more branches in here. But all these are very minor little additions to the painting at this point. And a demonstration isn't what you call a finished painting, but it's really a lesson on how to start, get through the middle and a little bit past the middle. Take a little bit of the burnt sienna here. And I'm going to do a little bit over here. If it's too much, that's why God made paper towels. I'll put a little bit in here, a little bit down the road, not too much. Like I say, just because it's in the photograph doesn't mean you have to use it. It's more important what you leave out than what you put in many times. And now I'm going to take my 1-inch flat and I'm going to add a few lighter trunk trees in the background by lifting. Not a lot, just a little bit here, a little bit there. Take a little bit more ultramarine blue with the burnt sienna that it grays itself down and add just a few accents of dark back in there. And I'm looking around. I don't want to make it too high contrast around the house that it sticks out too much. But I think I will take a little bit more yellow. Dry the brush off, and I want to put a little bit more in here. And just a touch up in here. And I'm just tapping the brush on the paper at this point. Because if you do too much of this, the painting will light up like a Christmas tree with all the lights. Let's see where we're at here. Okay, I'm going to take the tape off, see what it looks like. Sometimes I'll just leave it set up by itself for an afternoon or a day to see if there's anything else. But I'm thinking that we're there, and I'm being very careful. The paper I work on, the indigo paper, is a softer paper, but it allows you to manipulate the watercolor a little bit more. But I don't want to pull the tape up too fast because it will rip the paper occasionally. But you can see where we had it. I'm going to block that light out that's coming through my window here. So hang on just for a moment. Well, it's not going to block it out completely. There we go. But you can see where we ended up with the painting, and it's different than the photograph. I have really don't have any intentions of making it same as the photograph, but that's where we ended up. So if you have any questions before we end, that's maybe a little bit better. You can see the focal point a little bit more. Any questions before we leave?
Nope. Thank you so much. It was awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. This will be out in about, what, 2 days?
Yeah.
In about 2 days to you with the video that you can fix it, redo it, whatever you want to do. But I think all of you did fairly well, and especially for the first class for Diane and Charlie, because you're getting used to what I do and what you haven't maybe done in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Dale, any input on mine from this point?
You need to make your trees thick and thin. You're lacking variety of the
Okay.
size of the trees. You don't want them to look like they are all planted on the same day.
Okay. Okay. I'll work on that. Thank you.
Okay. And take care. Have a good weekend. And Janet, wherever you went, have a good weekend. She kind of dropped off there. So have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week. And
Thank
like I
you.
say, you're going to get in a couple days the video and the stills and so forth of everything.
Excellent.
Thank
Okay?
you, Dale.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.